So we're here at MCTCon and we're here with...
Stuart Zagnit, the original voice of Professor Oak in Pokémon.
So would you say that playing Professor Oak is probably where people will most recognize you from?
Yes, I would think that if they identify me with any character, it's going to be Professor Oak.
And now you voiced him for generally the entire series, correct?
We'll qualify that for the first 10 years
Yep.
of the series from its introduction to American audiences. So from 1999 to about 10 years beyond that. So.
And that also scoped into movies as well, correct?
I did 3 of the movies, 3 of the features, which were always fun to do because, you know, the episodes were under 30 minutes each, so to do a long form of anything. And my favorite is Pokémon 2000, where Oak gets to be his character, but also is the harbinger of things foreboding that's happening, and he sees it. And I said, you know, this is a chance to act. I really get to do more levels than I get to do on the regular series. So I was really happy about that, and I think it came out really well.
So I mean, I guess, you know, being the expert on Pokemon, do you have a favorite Pokemon?
Well, I like to say that all my Pokemon are like my children, but if I had to choose, and it's a tough choice, I would probably choose Pikachu.
I mean, I don't think there's a better choice for a favorite.
Yes, and when you think about it, each Pokemon has certain excellent qualities, but in order for me to entrust Ash on his journey, this is the only one that I knew could take him through that journey, and look how well they did together. So.
I mean, what was it 20 some odd years later, he's now the champion of everything.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So they're, you know, they're retired on the farm now, wherever that is, and they never write, they never phone, but you know, it's okay.
So what was your reaction when you found out you'd be voicing Professor Oak in Pokemon? And at the time, did you know that this was going to blow up into the massive franchise it became?
Absolutely not. Well, there was nothing like it happening at the time, and animated shows were what I grew up with Warner Brothers cartoons, and you know, it was moving along, but there was nothing like anime on American TV. So I simply went to an audition because it was an opportunity as a freelance actor and voice actor, and I went to the audition, and the rest is history. So it was one of those wonderful, happy accidents where the person I knew about that they were casting this show and they were looking for character voices, and it was kind of life-changing.
Now, when auditioning for Professor Oak, did they give you a baseline of like what they were looking for, or someone to base the character off of, or this is just what your inspiration was?
Well, the character existed and was part of the Japanese version of the show. However, the languages don't really connect. They're very different in the way they're vocalized. So when I auditioned, they gave me American dialogue that was translations from the Japanese, but they didn't give me any indication of what they wanted. So they showed me a picture of Professor Oak, and I looked at this person with gray, and he had bad hair on one side, and I thought, okay, I got the sense of humor without them really communicating anything. So when I read the dialogue, I just sort of used my imagination. And fortunately, I think they saw a connection there. So 2 weeks later, I was offered the part, and we started discovering the series episode by episode. And so I think our characters bloomed and grew as we discovered more about it through the episodes. And it's, I would say, very early on, Professor Oak and I sort of bonded with one another. So I felt a real connection to the character and the show. And
so, I mean, I guess then, is there any particular scenes or lines that like really resonated with you? I know you mentioned Pokémon 2000, but was there a specific episode arc that you're like, this is where you finally kind of found Oak?
Well, I found the voice, actually. I had been doing the voice, and whenever I'd go to a recording session, they would play back my audition tape because there was a certain quality I was doing that they liked. So that happened kind of regularly. And then I was in a studio doing one of the early games. It might have been Snap. and I had just, so much little bits of dialogue, and I'm in the studio and I'm saying these lines, and a Nintendo executive is in the booth listening, and he's not quite happy. So he doesn't speak much English, but he gets on the microphone and he stops me and he goes, "No, no, 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 no," and I went, "No." It's like I didn't understand, and he thinks a second and he goes, "More Oki," and I'm going, "Oki? What does he mean, Oki?" And suddenly, like a light bulb went off, and I went, "Oh, the oakiness is the crack in the voice that I would do without even thinking twice about it. I just did it because that's what he looked like." So once he said that, I never had to hear my audition tape again. So he helped me understand the voice that I had been doing, and from then on, it was a sure thing.
Perfect. So I mean that's answered kind of another one of my questions. But so let's. I guess Pokemon had many unique characters. So you auditioned for Professor Oak. Were there any other characters that you were like, I would have loved a chance to play X, Y, or Z?
I mean, because I think I came to really respect all the people that were doing the other parts. I never felt like, oh, I could do that better. And I think I just enjoyed Professor Oak so much that I didn't feel a need to like go. If they had offered me something else to do, I was certainly would. And over the years, then I did do Koga the trainer, and briefly I did Cedric Juniper, who was another professor. But that was actually years after I stopped doing the Oak voice.
So was returning to Pokemon kind of like a nice homecoming feeling?
It was, and it was a little bit of a tease because I would have liked to have continued, longer, but just even back for a little bit. I mean, 10 years is a good run, so I can't really complain about that.
Yeah. And then, so I guess over the years, Pokemon has evolved. What's it like watching your early work now, knowing that it shaped so many childhoods?
It's kind of mind-boggling and very gratifying. People come up to me and when I make these appearances, and some of them I can sit there and look at them and say, "Hello there," and they start to tremble, or they go, "Oh my God, you were my whole childhood." And to hear that, and I've heard that repeatedly, is a very big statement to hear from anyone. And so I am so grateful that it has had that impact on a generation. And now when people say to me, I watched the original episodes when I was a kid, and now I watch them again on Netflix with my kids, which means another generation is hearing us. And it just means it's going to go on. And I don't think there's anything better than that.
So it's funny when you're talking about finding the more oaky and you got into that little raspy crackle, it did give me goosebumps because as someone who I would record the shows on VHS on the VCR, and I would run home from school and watch them, and I mean, just this conversation gives me chills, to be honest. But my daughter's 6 months, and I am looking forward to the day where I get to show her, like, what I grew up on. But growing up in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s, I grew up on Pokemon, and I got to hear you as Professor Oak. But then as I got older, I also then got to hear you on another show, Chaotic.
Chaotic, yes.
So, I mean, and we kind of talked about this before we started the camera, but Chaotic really has a passionate cult following that has a unique storyline. So how did you get involved in that show?
Well, simply one of the people, Darren Dunstan, who also is a voice actor, and he was a director with 4 kids. I think he offered that to me. It was one of those few times where they said, we'd like you to try this voice. And it was so different from Professor Oak, and it was so much fun to do that I really loved jumping into that. And it gave me, a variety that I didn't always get a chance to do. And, I'm a stage actor too. So I love investigating other personas and people, which I've gotten to do. So believe me, I could do Professor Oak till the end of days if they.
Because I believe you were in Seussical, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm the original Mayor of Whoville in the Broadway production of Seussical, and you can hear me on the cast recording. And we're about to have our 25th anniversary, and we're going to do a concert version at it's called 54 Below, and it's literally a cabaret space underneath Studio 54. And so we'll be getting together on October 20th, and a lot of the original cast members, and that's a joy too, having been part of that, because that show has brought a lot of joy to people. It's one of the most produced. Even the junior version is very, very popular. So
I've actually had the opportunity to be in Seussical a few times.
Oh, really?
Yes, I played Horton as well twice, and I played the cat once.
Okay.
So
wow.
it was a fun thing, but it actually was a linchpin in my wife and I relationship. I was always on stage, and she was a stage manager. And while we met in our mid-20s, we were talking about theater, and Seussical was actually one of the shows that we found that we had both worked on.
Yeah.
And it was just fun.
How great.
All the different ways to do the practical effects or special effects you do on stage.
Yeah, yeah.
But I have a couple more questions on chaotics. Before we get too scatterbrained here.
I may not have too many answers for you about that one, but
well, I know we kind of discussed this a little earlier. The tonal shifts in playing the character on Chaotic, because you were one of the monsters on Chaotix.
Yeah, I guess you could call it.
One of the creatures, the cards, whatever you want to call it. But the premise is that the characters in Chaotix scan the creature and get to play as the creature for their battles. Did you find difficulty finding that tonal shift, or what was your, I guess, regimen for finding that tonal shift between actually playing the creature and playing the character playing the creature?
To be honest, I don't have like as strong a memory of that. I like people would say to me, my knowledge of Pokemon in general, and I'd say to them, well, you probably know more about it than I do, because I just came to work and read the script.
It was your 9 to 5.
Right. So I didn't watch the episodes, and I did go to the movies because the movies had premieres, but I enjoyed, in Chaotic, I enjoyed doing Bodil. I liked his, if you want to call it, whininess about him. He was not a good person, but there was something a little off about him that I loved exploring. So that for me was a great journey, and like Oak, I really had fun at the sessions recording them.
So was there a specific recording memory that you have from Oak that's I guess you would want to share?
The thing that I'm very proud of is that the shows are the movies were scripted, so, and as was the series, but at the end of Pokemon 2000, we are racing to catch up to Ash, and we're hoping nobody's in trouble. And I think we pull up in a Jeep, and I jump out, and in the picture you see him go, do this, and in the script it was like something like, oh, my back, and I went, that's kind of like a little too normal, right?
So on the nose.
So on the nose. So I said, can I try something? And they said, sure. So they were running, and he does this, and I went, ooh, my lumbago. And lumbago is a very old term for a back condition that nobody even uses that term anymore. But it was in my head, and they liked it. And the best thing was going to the movie theater at the premiere, and that moment happened, and the whole audience laughed. And I went, okay, I did.
That was a good choice.
And my instincts were right, and I love that. So that's when your own abilities and your improvisational skills come to work. And I just have a sense in a moment where we need comedy. Comedy is it breaks all the tension, and that was a moment that needed it, and I'm so glad it happened. So, that I think that's the most illustrative, example I can give. Otherwise, every time we did the show, we were always fitting our dialogue to we call it the lip flaps that were given to us from the original series. So that became an art form in squeezing those English words in, making them work. And it's gotten easier, but in those days we would, either speed it up or tighten, or maybe substitute one word that had one less syllable, and so that you felt really creative in doing it.
Kind of became a science doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And And the more you do it, the easier it is. So.
And then I guess, have you had a specific interaction with a fan? Because you talked about kind of being the voice of kids' childhoods, and now those fans have their own kids that are building new fans. Have you had a specific fan interaction that has just like been like, I'm glad I did this? Or is
Well,
it just a,
I've had a few of them today. I mean, it's the youngest ones that come up and are so knowledgeable. And there were a couple that were just extraordinarily articulate at the same time. So they're into Pokemon. They understand it from a level that I don't even know that I would have at that age. So I'm very impressed with them, and it just shows me also how many generations it keeps drawing people in, which is just an amazing, unique, and special thing. So,
yeah.
you know.
And then I do have one more question for you.
Uh-huh.
So I know you mentioned that Pikachu is your favorite, but I'm sure you've been asked this a dozen times. If you had to pick between Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle, who would you choose?
It's tough between. Okay. I think I'd do Bulbasaur.
That's the right answer. That is the right answer. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us. It was nice getting a chance to meet you a little more. And yeah, thank you.
Nice talking to you, and nice talking to you.
And so, as you heard it, October 20th, you're going to be in Club 54.
It's called 54 Below.
54 Below.
Right below Studio 54 on 54th Street between Broadway and 8th. And we will be having a 25th anniversary celebration of Seussical.
Awesome. So look to see Stuart at 54 Below on October 20th.
Great.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.